One of the two?
30 to
Yeah,
60
like
seconds
where,
of a song.
like where it might be the loudest type of thing.
Oh, the loudest, okay.
Yeah.
I was a long haul trucker over the road. I got my CDL. Had to pull that rig around in places that was tighter than. So, here's one called Laugh at Yourself. I was a long haul trucker over the road. I got my CDL. Had to pull that rig around in places that were tighter than hell. Well, I thought I'd be a good driver and make 1,000,000 miles myself, till I dropped the driving trailer, had to start working somewhere else. You gotta make sure that damn locking jaw is around the kingpin, and walk up and down the trailer and check the sum again. Don't worry about the seal number, you might crawl up under there again. But this time with the damn flashlight, you wanna keep your job, my friend. I was fine on the road till I had to drop my load, but I about damn destroyed the bulkhead and the landing gear got broke. But don't forget to laugh at yourself. If you don't, it's gonna be done by everybody else. Well, put a smile on your face and make the world a better place. But don't forget to laugh at yourself. Oh, one time my cousin put me to work selling insurance for lightning rods. And I didn't think a lightning rod could get insured, but hell, I needed a job. Oh, it's only $10,000 was the pitch he taught me to say. And I think that code requires it, won't you get insured today? Until door to door we come upon a house of a man who was 8 foot tall, and arms just as wide as my whole body. He was into mixed martial arts. And I said, hey buddy, would you like a deal to insure your lightning rod? And it seemed like he knew something I didn't, and it only took one knockout punch. Well, I won't miss my canine or molars, I'll be fine with 2 black eyes. When I get to the dentist next week, I'll be doing just fine. I think I'm done with door-to-door sales, it's way too social of a job. And I did a little research, you don't need to insure your lightning rod. But don't forget to laugh at yourself. If you don't, it's gonna be done by everybody else. Oh, just put a smile on your face and make the world a better place. But don't forget to laugh at yourself. I said now don't forget to laugh at yourself. Okay, thanks.
Welcome back to this edition of Savvy Sounds. We are officially in June. We're entering summertime, and I'm super excited to have Grayson Drum in the communications office. And for the first time ever, we actually coordinated getting his shirt up after the performance, but during the interview. So it's awesome. It's got the Highway 74 in there. But yes, thank you so much for coming on. This is great.
Thank you for having me.
So you are a Gaston County guy as well.
Mm-hmm.
We've had lots of good Gaston County musicians in here. So it's awesome to just be able to tell the stories of how like our residents and our talent got into music. But we found out that you're pretty good friends with Graham. You've known him pretty much your whole life.
Right.
So your upbringing was in Belmont.
Right.
Okay. So tell us about growing up there and getting into music.
So I started playing with my uncle and my cousin. And my uncle was a blues guitar player, and he was really good around the area, and they had a band.
It's like a rock band in the 70s, but they also did like a lot of blues rock fusion, and they would just jam out. And so he basically taught me a lot about the guitar. And so I just wanted to play that kind of music at first. Then I started hanging out with like this conglomerate of like folk and bluegrass musicians from Charlotte, and they were called the Hogs, and that, you know, messed me up even more.
Oh yeah.
yeah. So we just got together and basically weekly and played in Charlotte at different people's houses and stuff. It wasn't like until a little bit later on in high school when I started maybe performing out a little bit more and playing with like bluegrass bands in the area.
That's a really nice way to be brought up, I guess, and learn guitar, because I feel like that's how you maybe learn to communicate as a musician. And then you're basically practicing as you're jamming.
Yeah.
So you can get technically, you know, you can learn from the folks who are at the jam sessions, but you have the opportunity to get better at your craft. And like, again, just being able to communicate with those folks. That's awesome.
Definitely. If it wasn't that community-based exposure, I wouldn't have created such, you know, like a heart for it, I don't think, because like we were real friends making music together, just as a way to, you know, have fun. You know, it's just like, I would say like team sports, you know, when you're growing up. So that kind of thing. It was almost like that for me.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was really special.
Okay, so here's one called Divining Stick. Dowson, Moses, Levi, J. Brooks would pray and fast and keep the Lord's day. Granddaddy gave him a dowsing rod, taught him the old-time ways. Just dousing in that Carolina clay. He wouldn't charge a dime for finding any water. For a Carolina farmer, the summer's always hotter. And he kept the Nazarite vows just like Granddaddy taught him. Those old divining ways would never fault him. Oh, good old divining stick. Good old divining stick. You can call me superstitious, you can call me a hick. It's just my good old divining stick. A non-believer came naysaying with suspicion, doubting Dowser's skills as a backwoods superstition. Had nothing but a dry desert disbelieving disposition. Moses thought he'd put him to a competition in the driest drought in the Carolina hills. He prayed he would have the old-time skill. Found a flowing river underground with that old doubter standing around. Just left his doubting tongue out on the ground. Oh, good old divining stick. Good old divining stick. You can call me superstitious, you can call me a hick. It's just my good old divining stick. Oh, the poor old widow's old well had gone dry, and she called upon Moses to pull the water table high. That dying humble homestead needed Moses to sanctify. Or every crop she had would go bone dry. Oh, Moses took that rod of cherry wood and it only took 39 paces. That rod drove him to the ground, and honey in the rock he had found to grow the tallest cotton in the Tar Heel Nation. Oh, good old divine and stick. Oh, good old divine and stick. You can call me superstitious, you can call me a hick. It's just my good old divine and stick. Thank y'all.
I learned a little bit about you online. You're a multi-instrumentalist. You've recorded pretty much all of the parts on your album except for the one you mentioned, the slide guitar.
Yeah.
And then I found out that you've actually taken mandolin lessons from Darren Aldridge, who we've had the privilege of being on here. So tell us about the instruments that you play and also maybe your experience with Darren.
Definitely. So I first started playing guitar, like I said, doing like rock and blues. And then I got into mandolin. And that was like 13, 14. And so my mother played mandolin. Mom played mandolin. She had like this really nice 80s mandolin made by Roger Hart, which was a guy who lived in Monroe. And I still have that mandolin now. So it's awesome. 43 or 44 years old. I'd have to do math. But anyways, it's still a great instrument. And then she had another old mandolin, which I just got worked on. So I'm playing that now. It's like an old Gibson. So it's like 100 years old. Oh, so wow. I'm like honored to have that thing. But she played a little bit. It was fun. And so I just like wanted to do that, learn more about that and, definitely take it in that bluegrass country, sort of path. And so I knew Darren was teaching at Gaston School of the Arts. So I went down there and took lessons from him for, a couple of years. And so that was, he was playing around a lot too at that time. And so I felt honored to be able to be a part of that and to just sort of observe his style and playing as well. And so other than that, I moved on to fiddle because I was like, oh, well, if I can do maybe some mandolin stuff, fiddle's really related. They're both tuned in fifths and you can, sort of make them work together because the strings are the same. And so I was like, well, if I know a fiddle tune on the mandolin, I can learn a fiddle tune on the fiddle. And so that therefore, moved on to me just going up to like Mount Airy Fiddlers Convention, Galax, Merlefest, places like that, and just basically playing all night and, learning all the rep, via osmosis, like you were saying, just with friends. And I even picked up some banjo even along the way, just through doing that. And I got the chance to play with a really great banjo player, or a couple of really great banjo players in the area.
That's fantastic. And obviously you've used these skills that you've learned over the years to produce your own album, something that you can say you touched almost every instrument on, which is really cool. I don't think a lot of people can say that. And then of course you performed 3 of the songs for us, and we'll get into the album more. But I think the 3 that you chose kind of demonstrate the range that the album goes through. But why don't you just for now tell us the name of each song you performed and kind of what the meaning is behind them.
First off, let's talk about Divining Stick. Divining Stick is it. I actually figured out what this song was about on the way over here. So I was like, what is this song about? Because I'm sure we'll talk about it. It's sort of about your moral compass, and it's sort of about being led in some sort of intuitive way to find what you need in life. And what a divining stick is it's this rod that like old school like farmers and just like people way back in the day would hold loosely in their hand, and it would like tug on your hand when you found groundwater. But you had to be a certain sort of a skilled person is what they called it. But generally what that meant is that you were sincere and upright in your character, and you conducted yourself a certain way, even when people weren't looking, to try to just do the right thing. And so that that was a skilled person. And so the divining stick is, sort of this way that we interface with our lives, and we just try to, get in touch with our own moral compass. So that's sort of what that's like. But it's also connected to, farming. It's also connected to, pieces of Americana, things from the past that maybe people have forgotten about, and a lot of people don't believe that dowsing or divining works. So I address that in the song because I've never tried it, but my pawpaw knew somebody who still did this, and he was a preacher, and he believed in it, and he didn't charge money for it. So there is a character in the song. His name's Levi J. Brooks, and Brooks, it's like water, but Moses Levi J. Brooks. So Moses, Moses, and that's sort of a biblical thing. But in the story, he just he proves to the doubter that divining sticks work and dowsing rods can work. So that's divining stick. Then pine top guitar, it's about working with what you got. It's about just not being afraid to experiment and to think outside the box. Nothing against a Martin box, but it's thinking outside the box. Yeah. But that's what that one's about. And then laugh at yourself is just not taking yourself too seriously. If you drop a dry van trailer and you're, working a trucking job and you mess up on the job and you lose your job, at that point, all you can do is laugh and pick up the pieces and move on. So,
for sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll do pine top guitar. Oh, I should say that when you're rolling. Oh, were we rolling? We're rolling. Oh, no. Okay, we're going to do one called pine top guitar then. Oh, out in the wood shop, there is such a crime when you're stuck building something that's so between the lines, and you don't know what to do with that knotty pine board, and you're almost done refinishing that desk from the Civil War, hoping now your work, enduring through the years, will last, a relic we can cherish to help us learn from our past. Oh, build a pine top guitar and your dreams will go far. You don't have to buy a Martin D18. Oh, build a pine top guitar and you're sure to go far. You just cut right through that sappy bark and make it sing. If you don't know what you're doing, do the best that you can. You might just saw a chunk of wood, sounds like a trash can. But build a pine top guitar and you're sure to go far. You don't have to buy a Martin D18. Experimental to the common instrumental. Just what would we learn if we modify design? If the sound is just a dud and the tone is just like mud, then the only thing we've wasted is some old knotty pine. Should we make the headstock squared around, make it light or structurally sound to regulate torsional energy and maintain a perfect melody? But build a pine top guitar from a tree in the yard. Don't be afraid to work with what you've got. Oh, build a pine top guitar and you're sure to go far. You don't have to buy a Martin D18. Oh, you don't have to buy a Martin D18. Oh,
You don't have to buy a Martin D18. Oh, you're sure to be tremendous, 'cause your options are endless. After you make that first pine top guitar. Oh, after you make that first pine top guitar. Oh, after you make that first pine top guitar. Oh, after you make that first pine top guitar. Okay.
We'll go ahead and move into the album, which was released, is it earlier this year or was it even last year? I'm trying to remember.
It was last year.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I recorded it last year.
Recorded it last year.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And so, which I'm sure was, like we were talking before the recording, a lot of hard work, a lot of sweat and literal tears probably went into that. But for those who haven't listened, like I personally felt like there was just like a lot of range of feeling and emotion. And then it's deeply rooted in like some of the background you talked about, like you bring like a modern feel to everything. But then you also bring up stories of the past, like you mentioned. So talk us through like your process in writing that album. And I think you mentioned that you're sort of new to just recording in general, or at least, recording an entire album. So just walk us through, what the process was like.
A couple of the songs I sat on for 2 years. It was like, I wrote a song about my grandmother who was from Nashville, but she lived in Belmont for a long time. And so that was sentimental to me and to our entire family, because she was sort of a rock of our family and sort of a center of strength. And so when she passed, I realized, the dissolution of different social connections that I made, commenced after that sort of a thing. And so that song's called Spring Hill Cemetery, and she's buried in Spring Hill Cemetery, where, a lot of country music artists are buried. Jimmy Martin, Roy Acuff, Hank Snow, Keith Whitley. The list goes on for people who are, greats that are buried there. But, a lot of people on my mother's side of the family are buried in that cemetery. Then on another song I did sort of in the same sort of familial loss sort of topic, I wrote a song about my uncle who was a Gulf War Marine, and he passed away with something called Gulf War Syndrome, which was sort of a neurological condition that he contracted due to being around, chemical warfare. And I just sort of tell his story and his perspective, because I was able to be around him when he passed, was in the room when he passed, and sort of took care of him until, and that was, until that day. But he taught me a lot about life, and so I just sort of wanted to think about his story and people that become maybe even forgotten about through that sacrifice. And then I also do a couple on there that are in like 432 hertz, which is sort of a kind of a joke, but at the same time, if you like that kind of thing, then you totally should get into it. But I like playing in 432, which is sort of connected to the Fibonacci sequence. If you know, then you know. But that one's called At One, and then I've got another one called To the Track, and those processes were sort of communal with my cousin and my aunt. My cousin was like playing this guitar riff, and I sort of laid down the other guitar riff, and we just sort of came up with this little riff, and that was At One. And then To the Track, I think I just sort of got inspired with my aunt on the phone.
Yeah.
I can't even remember everything on the record.
Well, and I mean, going off kind of what you were talking about there, it sounds like there was a lot of experimentation, which I hope you had plenty of time to experiment, because I think it was Spring Hill Cemetery. I don't know if it ended this way, but it at least started kind of like it was recorded in an empty room.
Right.
So it had that echoey, classic. I loved it. I thought that was a really cool sound. And you talked about 432 hertz, which I'm a musician, but I feel dumb for not knowing what what the modern expectation is. It's like 440.
Yeah.
I think it's 440. Yeah. So that's typically what you'd hear on the radio or maybe.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, no, that was it was cool to hear that, and you can just tell that it seemed like you're kind of telling the stories from not really your lifestyle, but other people's lifestyles too.
Yeah.
And so I think there's just some nice bridges in there, a lot of different stuff happening, but it's very nice. The artwork is, in my opinion, very special too. It seems like there's a very nice nod to Gaston County because we have Highway 74 that runs right through, and you've got the Highway 74 sign there. But we'll put the album artwork on screen too. And then there is a Mercury. Is that a Topaz? What is that thing? Like some sedan?
That's my uncle's car.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what's the story behind that?
So my brother did the artwork for the album cover and some other stuff. He did the shirt too. So he's fantastic. Preston Drum Studios, check him out. He does fantastic work, and he does people's artwork, but he also teaches art. So he does fantastic. He's got 2 kids, my nephews, Elvis and Leroy. I want to get them playing music too. So when they hear this, I'm hoping they'll remember who wanted them to play music. Anyways, I hope they do. So anyways, but yeah, they live in Minneapolis, and so they do. I really appreciated him working on that.
I want to know how you feel about Gaston County being sort of a live music destination. It just seems like there's a lot more happening between some of the restaurants that have opened in the last 10 years. We have the Rooster now, which I don't know if you've had the privilege of playing at. You absolutely should. But have you played around Gaston County yet? Have you had an opportunity to, I guess, experience some of what's happening?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. I'm wanting to play more here coming up, but yeah, I definitely agree. Seems like there's definitely a growing music scene. I want to be a part of that, and experience more of what there is, about to happen. So, but yeah.
Grayson, thank you so much.
Yeah,
for coming
sure.
On the show.
Thanks for having me.
No, it was a blast talking with you. I really do hope to see you out somewhere.
Okay.
Really want to come see you, but if you haven't seen him and you want to keep up with Grayson, you can follow him at DrumGrayson on Instagram. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and listen to the album. I wrote it down so that I can't screw it up. But it's called Love to All People Through Sonic Empathy Drum Songs. So go ahead and give that a listen. Pretty much everywhere, Spotify, Apple Music. I saw it on YouTube as well.
I don't think it's on Snapchat.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Well, it's pretty much everywhere, so go ahead and give it a spin. But thank you, Grayson.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Definitely. Thank you guys for having me.